Welcome one and all to the ongoing mission of North American Bowling and SpareTalk toward bringing the sport of bowling back to the prominence it once held when the game was first brought to the shores of the American continents. The podcast that's featured here, with occasional current news items, tips, interviews, and more, primarily focuses on this day in bowling history. Here, we review news snippets from years and decades past, with the understanding that news isn't old, if you've never heard it before. It's with this clear and simple concept that we all must realize that in order for the game to grow, just as it did throughout history, the games must not be separated by the nonsensical ideology that any one game is superior to another. Through the unity of the games, we are all one. It's this unbreakable bond that explains why our sport has thrived and survived since the beginning of documented history. Accept all games and embrace them with the utmost respect. So, join our host, Rod Weaver, as we bring you the news of what happened on this day in the history of bowling. And now, on with the show.
From the year 1997 in the Connecticut Post, Duckpin Alley keeps setting them up. Subheading: Stratford's Barnum Lanes keeps its loyal following. Through default, good management, and some luck, Barnum Duckpin Lanes in Stratford has become a regional shrine in the sport of duckpin bowling. Constructed in the early 1940s with 12 lanes of 10 pins downstairs and 12 duckpin lanes upstairs, it has been in ownership of the same family since 1950, when the facility was converted all to duckpins. And, though duckpins may have none of the glitz and chrome of a 10-pin house, Barnum has found a way to keep its head above water over the years. Today, it is the last of its kind in Fairfield County, and one of the oldest in the state and New England. Swede Lavers, a member of the National Duckpin Hall of Fame, has been general manager for the past 14 years. We were the first bowling establishment, 10-pin or duckpin, in the state to have automatic pin setters. That was 1953, said Lavers, 63. That was when there were about 50 duckpin lanes in the state and only 10 for 10-pin. Now we're going to have Glow Bowl by the middle of December on Friday and Saturday nights that the younger crowd should like. I call it discotheque bowling. The lights pulsating to rock music, balls and lanes that glow in the dark, white pins under black light. I hear it's extremely popular in the Midwest for 10 pins. We'll be one of the first to have it in Connecticut. The tables have turned with only about 15 duckpin houses left in the state in comparison to 36 for 10 pins. Why has Barnum lasted so long? I guess you can say it's family owned and they care about the business, Lavers said. Max and Ida Reich bought it in 1950, shortly after it had been converted all to duckpin. 10-pin wasn't that popular yet. Their son, Burton Reich, who's retired to Florida now, said he wanted this to be the last duckpin center to remain alive. Now his son David is running it. Some think Lavers himself is a big reason why Barnum is still there. I don't want to take anything away from the family and all they've done, but Swede is quite an innovator of the game, said George Greenwood of Fairfield, 69. Who started bowling at age 14 and won awards while continuing the sport at the University of Bridgeport, where he was known as Mr. Bowler. He has an awful lot of respect from older and younger bowlers. People come to see him and pay homage. It's sort of a shrine because of Swede, Greenwood said. It's much easier to bowl duckpins and get aggravated than 10-pins and get aggravated. It's more of a challenge, Greenwood said. He noted the smaller sized duckpin ball and pins make for lower overall scores than 10-pin. There's about a 50-pin difference between the two, meaning a 125 duckpin score is comparable to 175 in 10-pin. A duckpin ball weighs 3 pounds compared to 16 for 10 pins. The duck pin itself weighed 1 pound as opposed to the 3-pound 10-pin. Duck pin bowlers get to roll 3 balls per frame instead of 2 in 10-pin. There never has been a perfect 300 game in duck pin. The world record is 279, set by North Haven's Pete Signori at T-Bowl Lanes in Newington in 1992. Orlando Primavera, 85, of Stratford, has been bowling since 1934, and ever since the Barnum building has been there. I remember it was owned by the Nichols family before Max and Ida bought it. That's when I bowled for Ray Bestis, said the retired machine operator. When I started, it was the only sport around, so I stayed with it. All of my cousins bowled too. I like the people at Barnum. It's the only place to go now. Al Bike, 83, of Bridgeport, is another veteran bowler who has seen many duck pin houses fall by the wayside. I've been bowling duck pins all my life, since I was 12, Bike said. I started with the North End alleys in Bridgeport, then Holland alleys, Newfield alleys, and Boston alleys. When that closed, I went to Barnum. There are still some die-hard bowlers like me. I'm glad there's still a place to go to. About 80% of Barnum's business comes from its 35 leagues, a number that has stayed fairly constant over the years, Lavers said. Bridgeport Hospital, the largest league with 12 teams of 5 each, has been bowling at Barnum for 20 years. The oldest league is the Thursday Night Classic, which has been around for 30 years. Lavers attributes 10-pins' rise and duck-pins' fade to television and the corporate dollar. In 1953, there were 50 duck-pin lanes in Connecticut and 20 in Fairfield County, about a dozen in Bridgeport alone, Lavers said, and there were about a dozen 10-pin lanes in the state. That sport only got popular in the late 50s when it got on national network television. 10-pin has always had conglomerate support from the likes of AMF and Brunswick. Duck pins has always pretty much been mom and pop. But AMF has taken over many lanes in Maryland, where the sport is still big. It's also popular in the Boston area. They used to show weekly duck pin tournaments on Boston television, but no longer, Lavers said. Right now, we see more of the older than younger bowlers. We hope to get more younger bowlers when we start the Glow Bowl. From the Evening Sun from the year 1986. Sill's lone mistake proves not costly. When Alita Sill stepped up on lane to make her first shot Saturday, it suddenly dawned on her that she was on the wrong lane. So Sill, a 2-time bowler of the year who had been struggling in 1986, stepped back off the lane, put her ball down, and told Dinah Wheeler she could start. As top seed, it was Sill's option to decide who starts. That was the only mistake Sill made as she crushed Wheeler 238 to 172 in the national championship match to win her second national title at Samstown Casino Lanes. Here's an item from a periodic column called On the Main Stem with Bud Cornish. Should we change? There's an old song. They were all out of step but Jim. Maine in bowling is all out of step with the rest of the nation, and the question is, should Maine start going over to the big ball rolling, or even the duck pins, and stow the candle pins away forever? Now don't go hopping on Uncle Bud and screaming, traitor. I would rather change the nation over to candle pins, which I think is a far more fascinating game, only, presently, I can see no way of doing it. Consequently, the state might be smart if it went by the old political slogan, if you can't lick 'em, join 'em, and get on the gravy train. I am a candlepin rooter. I once went so far as to write an article for Esquire, which was sandwiched in between 2 ribald cartoons, to the effect that we might be out of step, but candlepins was a far more scientific and exciting game, with its deadwood and hundreds of different shots, than the 10-pin or bottle pin game. But there's also a lot of do-re-mi in prizes and a lot more opportunity to chase big prizes in the other games because they are more established. The switch over to duck pins, which are also recognized nationally, isn't difficult for the candlepin bowler, but the switch to 10 pins would require a bit more study and practice. Annually, huge tournaments for duck pin and candlepin bowlers are held in the nation, to which individuals and teams, 2-man and 5-man, are eligible, and the very fact that we have been rolling candlepins all our lives, where a greater degree of accuracy is required to hit a skinny stick than a 10-pin or duck pin, might allow some exceptional candlepin rollers to break into the limelight in the other forms. The thought that maybe we in Maine are being hammer-headed in not getting into step in bowling came when Bill Ramsey recently told me Phil Grover, ex-Maine champ, now in Hartford, Connecticut, has taken to ducks like a duck to a pond and should, in short order, be among the high rollers shooting at some of that tournament lettuce, cabbage, or mazuma. It will take a selling job, of course, to get some of the boys to try the ducks. Here in Maine, we know that candlepins is harder, candlepins is more scientific, and nobody's going to tell us differently. But if a few of Maine's best should just start rolling ducks, practicing, then step out and win $1,000 or so in a tournament somewhere, there'd be a rush of youngsters to the duck pins or 10 pins. 10 pins has only one advantage. Like getting a hole-in-one in golf, you can roll a perfect 300 string. In candlepins, there is never a ceiling. There are some uncertified reports of strings over 200 or 190, but only occasionally have strings actually attested been rolled in the 180s. If you'll pardon the bragging, your Uncle Bud is a world champ. I once rolled 164 without a spare. Ask Henry Javoyne, John Piacentini, some of the old arcade gang of George Kimball's day. I had 5 strikes, 4 of them in a row, tying all known records, and no spares. From the Journal Times from the year 1988. Carlson hammers Holman. Mats Carlson of Sweden took advantage of 2 open frames by Marshall Holman of Medford, Oregon, and beat him 231 to 199 to capture the Professional Bowlers Association $200,000 Brunswick Memorial World Open Saturday. Carlson, who earned $33,000 along with his 3rd PBA title, took the lead in the 2nd frame when Holman left a 6-7-10 split and failed to convert it. However, by the 5th frame, 3 straight strikes by Holman had given him back the lead. Holman then left a 3-6-9 in the 7th frame and chopped it, leaving the 6-pin. From there, Carlson used a string of 4 strikes to build a 30-pin lead, which he never lost. Because lane conditions on the national telecast were different than during the week, Carlson made a strategy change that worked. The back ends of the lanes were hooking more than they were all week. I just wanted to throw the ball a little harder and straighter. In the first game of the final round, Ron Palombi Jr. of Erie, Pennsylvania, ousted Mark Williams of Beaumont, Texas, 245 to 226. From there, Holman eliminated Palombi, 247 to 187, and then disposed of left-handed number 2 seed Parker Bone III of Freehold, New Jersey, 244 to 219. From the Charlotte Observer from the year 1964. When duck pins come back, he'll be ready. For 18 years, J.B. Bradshaw has refused to convert his 10 duck pin lanes to 10 pins, and he sees no reason to change now. Bradshaw, owner of Recreation Bowl here, says business is not as good as it once was when duck pin houses outnumbered 10 pin houses. But we're operating at 70% of our peak year right now, he points out. And we would probably do 1/3 more bowling business if it wasn't for this adverse weather, he said, referring to the mild temperatures that keep people outdoors instead of driving them to indoor entertainment like duckpin bowling. Bradshaw, who once played professional baseball for the Charlotte Hornets and Greenville, South Carolina teams in the Washington organization, says he never considers switching to 10 pins. Companies that provide bowling equipment tried to persuade him to make the conversion when that was the fashionable thing to do, but he stood firm, almost. We changed 4 of our 10 lanes to 10 pins, he admits, but we had sometimes as many as 60 people waiting to bowl duck pins and nobody bowling 10 pins, so we finally switched those 4 back. He admits also that duckpin bowling is not as popular as 10 pins, but I think duckpin bowling, particularly in the warmer climates like this area, is going to find its place. It probably never will be as big as it is in the hotbeds of duckpin bowling up north, but I don't think 10-pin bowling is going to be able to keep interest like it has now, he adds, naming off a list of about 6 Charlotte area 10-pin houses that no longer are in business. Bradshaw now operates 8 leagues on the 10 lanes here and will add 10 more teams later this month when he opens his junior program. Teams then will total about 60, and the most we ever had was about 100. He says that duckpin fans from Charlotte and surrounding areas drive to his center here to bowl. Recreation Bowl and a duckpin house at Kings Mountain are 2 of the few remaining centers using duckpins in this area. The manufacturing company spent millions of dollars to promote 10 pins, and that, plus bowling on television, was what got the 10-pin bowling boom going, Bradshaw said. If they had spent the same money to promote duckpins, they would have had a game that suited the whole family more, he commented. The smallest ball in 10 pins weighs 10 pounds. That's just too heavy for the little ones. Standard here is 3 pounds 8 ounces. When you get up to 3 pounds 9 ounces or to 3 pounds 11 ounces, you're in heavyweight class. From the competition standpoint, Bradshaw also makes a case for duckpins. Scores are lower because it takes a little more skill to roll a good game of duckpins. You don't get near as many strikes, and it's harder to pick up spares because both the ball and pin are smaller, he points out. A 205 game is the house record and was rolled by Bill Barnhill, who works at Recreation Bowl. Sports runs in cycles, says Bradshaw. I can remember when you couldn't get anybody to play golf around here. Now you can't get on the course. From the year 1986 in the Evening Sun, Garrett wins Ladies Duckpin Grand Prix title. Top-seeded Wilda Garrett won the $2,500 first prize in the Women's National Duckpin Association Grand Prix tournament at Fairlane's East Point. The native of Stratford, Connecticut, defeated Diane Wirt of Laurel in the title match. Wirt collected $1,250 for placing second and another $300 for being cited Bowler of the Year. Baltimorean Sandy Burke was named Rookie of the Year, earning $100. In other final round matches, unseeded Anita Rothman tripped Mary Garner, the 4th seed, and Carol Giddings, the 3rd seed, before losing to Garrett. The Fairlanes Men's Masters, the biggest stop of the season for the Duckpin Professional Bowlers Association, is slated for Fairlanes Prince George's in Hyattsville this weekend. The winner will collect $5,000. From the Miami Herald from the year 1994. Surprise! A southpaw wins Samstown tourney. Scoring conditions had been tough all week, so it was only fitting Tish Johnson edged Carol Giannotti in a low-scoring championship game, 178 to 172, to win the $100,000 Samstown Invitational Tournament Saturday. It was the 3rd time that the left-handed Johnson had won the $18,000 first-place check, and that too seemed only fitting since the Samstown Bowling Center has been a southpaw's scoring paradise for over the years. Fellow left-handers Alita Sill twice and Patty Costello once also have won at Samstown since the inaugural 1984 tournament. Anne Marie Duggan probably wrapped up LPBT Player of the Year honors by finishing 26th. Sill, her closest rival, needed a victory to make it close, but wound up 9th in the final LPBT Tournament of the Year. Tammy Turner made her reputation here last year, finishing second as an amateur in the Showcase Tournament on the LPBT Tour. Saturday, the West Palm Beach bowler nailed down LPBT Rookie of the Year honors by finishing third in the field of 157. That gives Turner a first, second, third, fourth, and fifth in her first year on tour and $54,072 in earnings. I think I had a great year, exceeding my own expectations, said Turner, who earned a degree in biology and graduated cum laude at West Texas State University. Hall of Famer Judy Sutar, who represents Brunswick on both the senior and women's tours, agreed and said Turner could be the next great woman pro bowler. It's rare for us to sign a rookie, Sutar said Saturday after signing Turner, but Tammy has so much raw talent, we think she could be a great champion. John Jowdy, who coaches many of the top men pros, added a ditto. She has a fantastic hand release and is so smooth, you never hear the ball hit the lane. Turner was smooth in the first two games Saturday, rolling 5 strikes en route to a 214-188 victory over Jackie Sellers in the opening match. In the quarterfinal duel, Turner carried some lucky hits and struck on her first 7 shots en route to a 277-177 rout of Dee Dee Davidson. But in the semifinal game, Turner lost the strike range and lost to Giannotti to 11-191. I think my feet got too fast and I didn't realize it until it was too late, Turner said. Turner, 24, took up bowling in West Palm Beach at Verde's Tropicana Lanes. My mother and stepfather, Cheryl and Lenny Giroux, got me into the game when I was 9. I was a better than average high school bowler, but not a great one. I don't think I really started to develop until I joined the bowling team at West Texas State. If she can overcome some shoulder problems that forced her to sit out 2 tournaments, she could be a contender for Bowler of the Year honors in 1995. Today we'll be announcing a new and hopefully semi-regular feature to the SpareTalk Bowling News Network. Introducing Dr. X's Bowling Clinic. With this being an offshoot of the This Day in Bowling History podcast, these bowling tips from Dr. X will mostly be general reminders through sound mechanics in a bowler's approach to the pins and delivery of the ball. As with any trip to the doctor, the purpose is to remedy a problem with either corrective or preventative maintenance. The doctor's goal is to bring more X's to your game. In this feature of Dr. X's Bowling Clinic, I'll be relating my own past experiences that involve fixes for my own bowling style. In that regard, as it pertains to what I'm sharing, I came across a more detailed and scientific explanation of the same situation from which 10-pin rollers may be able to profit. But first, here's my experience. About a month ago, while rolling in my senior league, I was wild with my delivery. And this is duck pins. I commented to one of my teammates that I was throwing the ball too hard. By the time I was up again, I had forgotten my self-critique and continued with the same inaccuracy. It was with that bad follow-up frame that I came back and thought to myself, yeah, you're throwing too hard, so what are you going to do about it? Back in my prime days, I had a lot of alternatives with my delivery, and one of them was to slow my arm swing down. This probably seems like a lot of poppycock that a person can slow down their arm swing with a duckpin ball, but there was the conscious effort to do so, and in so doing, the simple goal and result was to not whip the ball, but just be casual and concentrate on executing the shot consciously as it was happening. The result was uncanny in that the ball was going right where I wanted it to go. I went from mediocre bowling about a month ago to having 4 good sets in a row. The only fly in the ointment that worked against me last week was rolling on a pair of lanes in which a lot of oil was coming back on the duckpin balls, and the ball began slipping out of my hand, thus prompting a tighter grip and a less natural arm swing. And so last week my first ball was pretty terrible, leading to a bad day. But aside from that, I came across the following bowling tip from a column by a bowler named Billy 60, and he explained the whats and whys about this same type of situation, only for 10 pence. Here is Billy 60's bowling tip. This is from the Charlotte News from 1963. About 50 years ago, golf pros stressed finishing the backswing to keep the swing groove and to maintain balance. The tip today to bowlers is, don't rush the swing from the top and don't muscle the ball. Let it swing of its own weight and, as the old golf pro said, you will maintain balance to a full follow-through and a good shot. When you take things easy and let the ball swing of its own weight, it follows a natural, unimpeded course, picking up momentum through a maximum low and long arc, which ensures regulated speed and control. However, rush the swing from the top and the path will follow an unnatural course. The swing loses its natural groove and the release will be a quick jerk, changing the direction of the ball, usually driving it high on the head pin. When you get to doing that, concentrate on a slower downswing. Moreover, when the arm is forced out of its natural groove, it also affects other parts of your approach. The stride, or your footwork, stops abruptly at the foul line. There's no slide finish and no follow-through. The hand turns over quickly to the left, and thus the ball is pulled high on the head pin. That's for right-handers. Letting the ball drop down into the groove swing arc of its own weight may at first feel clumsy. In fact, as Billy 60 says, I know it will. You think the ball will drop behind the foul line and get away from you. Perhaps it will drop a few times. Once you get used to the feeling of the ball dropping into the downswing, control comes quickly. From the Journal Times from the year 1988. PBA settles a $250,000 lawsuit. Under the agreement of their out-of-court settlement of an antitrust lawsuit, the Professional Bowlers Association will pay the touring pro bowlers $250,000. But outside of that monetary concession, the PBA said it would cost about $250,000 to continue the trial in Seattle. The plaintiffs, who claimed the PBA prevented players from competing in events not sanctioned by the PBA, apparently achieved little outside of cosmetic rule changes. From the year 1988 in the Journal Times, technology advances for hookball bowlers. Bowler Track, a new video system that has been developed by Brunswick, could be the biggest thing since automatic pin setters. Bowler Track will enable a bowler to see the path of each ball rolled, the location of the ball at different points on the lane, the speed of the ball, and the angle of entry into the pocket. Well, I think we'll wrap it up for today. Thanks again for stopping by and tuning in to our revised format of the This Day in Bowling History podcast. As usual, if you'd like to be notified of future videos when they become available and are published, feel free to hit the subscribe button in the lower right-hand corner of the videos or the YouTube screen. Have a wonderful weekend, and I look forward to seeing you on the upcoming Monday, and hopefully we'll have a few more enhancements to the podcast. So take care.